Testing, testing. Okay, welcome to GameGuru. Very live broadcast. Take two. I think my microphone is working now. Sorry if it's a little bit too loud. I'm going to check the chat because I have no faith in my technology right now. So I'm going to need some. Remember right back at the beginning when we first started doing these broadcasts and I would ask for a sound check? I think we're bringing that back. So can everybody hear me? If you can say, hey, yeah. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, great. You can hear me and you can see me. So once again, welcome. Thank you for your patience. This is GameGuru Live Broadcast, the place you go to when you want to learn about what's happening behind the scenes. And these days, it's devolved into a very excellent Q&A where you get to ask any questions you want, and I answer as many as I can in the time remaining. And if you have a question, just pop a question mark at the end, and then I can skim through the chat real quick from top to bottom and answer as many as I can. So, as I said, zero confidence in technology today, so I'm still looking at the chat to see for that critical moment when I drop again and all of a sudden I have no audio and no visuals, and we'll do take three. Hopefully we won't have to do that and we can get through the next 40-50 minutes without too much ado. So yeah, as I said, throw in your questions. We'll get to those later. For now, I want to tell you about two things that's been going on that you may or may not know about. The first one is something called LOD generator. I want to make a mention of it. It's not something that TGC are working on. It's something that Preben's been working on, and I highly recommend you check out his Patreon page. I've got a link to it here. Just tap out Plemsoft on Google and it will take you straight here, and you get a complete blog of all the activities that Preben's getting up to and has got up to. Has been instrumental in making the performance of GameGuru Max blazingly fast. I did my bits, which I felt was needed by the engine. Preben's just gone further, making sure that if there is speed gains to be had, they are had. And the latest, greatest one, potentially the greatest performance boost you're going to get on the majority of systems, is the ability to generate LODs. That is level of detail, where you scale down the amount of geometry work the further away the object is from the player's camera. And it has some remarkable benefits. You have to be a Patreon member, so you have to subscribe to Preben's Patreon page to get the LOD generator. But when you get it, you can feed it in an entire level, and it will scroll through all the objects, convert them to LOD super quick, and then when you load that level in next time, you get the benefit of the LOD. And I just want to show you the tool very quickly. I'm not going to do the whole level thing. I'm just going to show you the simplest way you can use it. So once you get the LOD generator, you just run it, which is super simple, and then you go, I'm just going to show you one object for now, for example this parrot. I'm going to drop that in, and on the left hand side is the original model, and on the right hand side is a representation of LOD, what we're talking about. This is obviously the highest level, so it's the same as the original, but look at what happens to that little birdie as we scale it down to 204 polygons. Shape remains the same, but look at the polygon saving, 1682 polygons the original artist used, and the LOD automatically was able to get that down to 200. Now yes, there are going to be visual differences at this, but the idea of LOD is that when LOD L3 kicks in, you're like out here somewhere, and so you never actually notice the difference. And these add up. I mean, all these polygon savings across millions of vertices, millions of polygons I should say, in your level absolutely improve your performance. And if you were GPU bound, that is, you don't have a really fast graphics card, you get even more of a saving. And it's very customizable. You can tune each individual object so you get the best transition from LOD to LOD to LOD for every object you care to take on board. And if you're not interested in doing that per object, you can just load in the whole level and it does it automatically. And in the software, let me just show you what it will look like in the software. Yeah, let's just load in Island Showdown. I used Island Showdown as my benchmark for doing all my own performance work, and then obviously extending that to all the commits that Preben's been making to see if the performance gets better and better. And I think we can stop now. We're getting some seriously impressive performance. So you'll find that if you've not been checking out the tab view for a while. I said tab, it's just tab now, isn't it? Tab was classic. Yeah, it is tab. What am I talking about? We added this, graphics and performance. So post-processing was sort of the things you were mostly used to for switching them off, getting this faster. But when you just want out-and-out settings, this is a new component called graphics and performance. And by default, we basically switch on all the optimizations. We're guessing you want the fastest gameplay experience, so we just ticked everything on. The only things that aren't ticked are like debug modes, where it lets you visualize some of the performance improvements that are happening, but you don't really want them running in your game. They're really just for testing, and that includes some stats as well. And then this at the bottom, this is the latest addition to the performance work, which of course is LOD multiplier, which then is a overruling, or like a global multiplier that applies to every LOD mechanic. So if you don't want them to pop to the next lowest level of LOD, generally across all the objects, you can change the multiplier and it pushes it further away and brings it closer to you to get the sweet spot for the performance you're looking at. And within the LOD system itself, you can switch on and off all these features. We recommend you have them all on because you really don't notice a difference visually with them all on. But if you are precious about a certain thing, like you really don't want the lowest level of LOD for your shadows, maybe your game really needs some high crispy shadows, then you can obviously disable that part of the LOD system. So it's not just about the stuff that you see, it's all the other geometry that goes on in the background to do things like, as I said, shadows or reflections or environmental probes. They're all needing these objects to be rendered in the background that you never see, and all that takes time. And it hurts your performance if you try and do too much on a low-end GPU. So this is an improvement to cater for that kind of hardware. Obviously, if you've got a massive gaming rig, you've probably never had any performance issues. But for, let's say you've got a 1050 or something like that, this comes into its own, being able to now use LOD. So I wanted to mention that, and just tip of the hat and the kudos to Preben. And it's 0.6 right now, which sort of suggests there might be a few more improvements along the way, and I'll start to be using it increasingly. I want to do all my gaming laptop performance improvements again, just to see. I already got 60 FPS on a really nasty laptop, so I was quite happy to get to that point. I am now curious if I actually ran the LOD generator on that, how much more than 60 FPS will I get when I'm playing on the gaming laptop. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So that's the LOD generator. Really happy to see that emerging from the community. And as I said, you can click on the right thing. You go on to Plemsoft on the Patreon, and then you can scroll through. And if you sign up, there's a download button somewhere. I think it's, well, you'll find it, and then you just basically download directly from Patreon, and then you can get it. And the second thing I want to tip a hat to is myself, because I've done something too. And let me show you what that is. It's very subtle. You probably think, oh, is that all, Lee? What have you been up to? It's actually something that's been requested forever, and it's going to encourage those who really do want to throw away the stock stuff and create all their own custom materials, sounds, assets, etc., and have them all in a separate place. And so it's called the new project system. It's still in progress, it's not finished yet, but we've got a few insider testers who have a vested interest in making sure this is exactly what they want. And once we get it finished to a point where everyone in that group is happy, chances are everyone else is going to be happy about it as well. So when you create a new game project, typically all you was able to do is type out a name. So let's say Fred's game. We've added this optional project folder. So now what you can do is, instead of going into the standard global writables folder where everything else gets dumped in, you can now actually set up a separate remote location for your project. As you can see, I've just defaulted to Dropbox because another cool thing, in fact this was one of the first things I did because I thought it was really exciting to do this. I have a Dropbox desktop, which means it auto syncs local files to the cloud. So by creating my remote project folder inside Dropbox, I've instantly got cloud backups for all of my project files that I'm working on. It's effectively the ultimate backup because the Dropbox subscription I have, if you change a file, it remembers the older version of the file, going back as far as you have storage. Super critical if you mess up a level or you delete a file and you want it back. Having that cloud synchronization, basically for free, well, if you've got Dropbox, all you got to do is point your folder into it and there you go. So that's what that is, and if you want to change it, it doesn't have to be Dropbox, you can change it to anywhere on your local system. Doesn't have to be Dropbox, it could be Google Drive or OneDrive or some of the others. I've only tested on Dropbox, and of course we'll do a full test of all the other ones before this actually gets to what I would call a version 1, where it's been thoroughly tested. There are some things we're still working on. Let me just show you this third folder. This is one I created earlier. In fact, if I should come back out of there, you'll see this one, Lee's Thumbnail Adventure, and that goes into here just like, you know, like a regular opener project, and it might seem all innocent and anything, but all this now exists in this location, which of course is Dropbox My Max Projects, which is just a folder I'm going to use for all of these such things. And then it created the name of the project as a folder name, so Lee's Thumbnail Adventure. And inside here, and this is the idea, it only contains the files that are pertinent to your game project. So it won't. The intention is this isn't used as like a dumping ground for all the writable files that can stay as global. That stays in the writables area. This is just for the files that are needed because at some point they will be unique to your game project. Visuals.ini remembers your editor settings, a lot of the editor settings, and that will be very much on a per game project basis, so we kept that one. Inside the files folder, a lot of things that you'll agree with. The EBE bank, which is, this is the default texture plates for the building editor, and you will probably, if you're getting really heavy on using the building editor, you're probably going to have your own textures, and so this is existing there. The editor grid in here is a config file, because again, if you've got like a camera at a particular point, then you save, you're able to remember that when you go straight back. Now obviously it goes without saying that if you've got your own, if you're importing your own models, they will come here in this configuration, so they'll be added into the entity bank. Level bank, this is actually a temporary area for the last level that was loaded. It's also a nice sort of mini backup, so if there's something like, oh, I've done something bad, you can come here and probably grab that file before it gets too bad. Obviously map bank, so as you can see here I've got level 1 and level 2, and if you look at the GameGuru Max, you've got level 1 and level 2. I deleted level 1 in the storyboard, and I think that was the one underneath, wasn't it? So yeah, and there it is. So that could probably be deleted. So this is something that was added recently, automated backups. So if you can look in here, it actually a history of every time I saved level 1, it remembered the last version of it, and it made sure that, see, that's the 6th oldest, 5th, 4th, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, and then the last backup, and it will keep going sequentially all the way down to millions and millions. And that makes sure you can always step back an earlier point in time, and there's your date stamp for them. It's all sitting in Windows Explorer for now. Maybe this is something we expose in the UI. But here's the thing, if you've got Dropbox, you may not even need automated backups, and this will start gobbling up your storage. So I'm thinking, if people are really into using Dropbox as their remote project location, we might have an option to toggle this one off so it doesn't do its own automated backup, because Dropbox one is probably a lot better and has its own UI ready to rock. And finally, the project bank, Lee's Thumbnail Adventure, and this is actually where the project files actually are. The writables folder project bank still has a reference to Lee's Thumbnail Adventure, but inside there it's empty except for one file which says, I am actually not here right now, I'm over there. And so if you, for example, in the future want to move it from this location to somewhere else, all you've got to do is go into that original writables folder and change the path to where your new project location is, and then you carry on as if nothing ever happened. And there's some jiggery pokery going on, so that right now I'm in remote, but if I go back out into here, I'm actually back into the global writables. And then every time you pick a regular one, where this is, see, hello normal, that's actually a regular project, not using remote location, and that's just in the writables. So as soon as you click a project, it decides whether it's a normal one or a remote one, and then it reconfigures the writables area into two sections. What are the writables that need to be global, and what are the writables which are going to be in the remote project location? So the first part of that is nearly finished. We're just testing it, making sure that it doesn't do silly things. The first version of it did a bit too much. It was putting thumbnails in and other files that it's like, yeah, technically you want your thumbnails in your project area, but really they're auto-generated. So you don't really need it in there as such, because Max will just regenerate it for you. So the thumb bank is actually in the main writables area, because you don't really want too much duplication when you're doing remote project locations. And the second part of the new project system is a proper library system for objects. Let me just give you I can't demonstrate it because it hasn't been written yet, but I'll show you where it will go. Let's say you go into level 2, and you've got a big pile of models that you want to bring into your level, and you go to add. Right now you get something like this, which is purchase, project, media, favorites, and a great big raft of basically every stock folder and DLC and anything else that you've ever had. With the new project system, this started to feel a bit like clutter, especially if you don't want any of this right now and you just want to see your media subdivided into your folders. So when you're in the project and you click the add button and come here, this configuration will be different. So it prioritizes your own models, your own assets that you've put into the project area. You can still get access to all of your stock media, but when you are browsing for it and select it, it actually copies that object or that asset into your remote project area and then lists that as a priority item here. That's the general idea of the object side of the new project system. The upshot is once you've done that, that project area, you could zip up that project and everything that your game needs is there. It's not spread across all of GameGuru Max's subfolders. It's all in one location, and you can zip it up, you can share it, you can collaborate, you can put it on Dropbox. Maybe there's two people working on the same game and they both have access to a shared Dropbox location. Again, not tested that, but you're getting the idea. Maybe someone's doing all the sound effects, someone else is doing all the models, and a third person's doing all the levels. Technically, it's almost like multi-user, but sort of cheating by using Dropbox. So that's been asked for a very long time. We've finally started it. We're about halfway through. The objects, as I've just described, will be the second part. Then lots of testing, and then we'll be able to do a proper deep dive, maybe a video to show you how to use it and some best practices. And hopefully we'll start to see some games come along where there are some projects that have kind of been waiting for the new project system, just so there's some proper asset organization, and from that, who knows, maybe we'll see some really great things. So I'm just checking the clock. We're 29 minutes in. Obviously we wasted the first 10 minutes with hitting me over the head with a microphone, so we've probably got some time, and I'm going to press some more buttons now. Like I said, I have zero confidence today for technology, but let's see what happens if I press this button here. Okay, so we're going to go through usual drill. So alright, here we go again, Lee. And we got to select the pop-up, which will be under YouTube. That worked great. And then I can go into my window and resize this. And I think we nearly got that. We're just, there you go. And maybe move this window a little bit that way. Happy days. Okay, so as I promised, I will answer all your questions, and I'm going to start at the very top. And the first thing I'm going to check is if we actually drop connection, because that would be crazy, wouldn't it? Lee talking for 20 minutes all by himself. Okay, it looks like No one's complaining, so I guess everything's working so far. Great. Let's look for question marks, then we can answer them. So I think the first one is from Paul Walker, isn't it? So yeah, I think it is. And I do apologise if anyone threw in their questions in the first take of our live broadcast. I hope you figured out where we've moved to and then repeated your question. So Paul Walker asks, when will Preben's LOD system be available working in Macs? Yeah, it's a good question. There was a situation where we started using something called an experimental build, where we would put early versions of the build out so some people could test it who wanted to take a few risks. The problem is the EXP build became such a regular updated thing that a lot of GameGuru Max users just stayed on the EXP build. I think 15% of all users are now on the EXP build. The problem happened when we uploaded something that was experimental and broke that build, and we got a lot of complaints. It's like, stop breaking the experimental branch, which is a bit weird. So now we've created another branch called DevTest, and we've actually put in the description, this is a dangerous branch, do not use it. The new project system and the LOD generator support is in that dev test in the super experimental branch, and we're going to have an internal poll, just a few people with a vested interest, as to whether the dev test is solid enough to promote to the EXP build. So EXP build users will not have to suffer the rogue bug that might creep in. The dev test will be battle hardened a little bit before we promote that to EXP. When that happens, that's when you'll get the LOD support. The LOD generator does its bit, which is updating and changing the files, but GameGuru Max needs to be able to see that modified file and then apply the LOD system, which is there's changes in both the Wicked engine and in the game engine side as well. So you will need that update, and it will be in the EXP build at some point. And then when the EXP build is ticking along and yep, that's really good, then we'll make a proper announcement and release it publicly into the main public build. So it's 0.6, so it's still being worked on, and but I am pleased to report that all the commits are in, and we are testing them, and it's just a case of when we're happy that it's stable enough, then we can push it out. And of course anyone can get access to the EXP build. It's I think it's let tester in 456, so I think that's the password. You put that into Steam beta and it pops up experimental build and you can play with it. So we'll let you know probably via Discord once the latest LOD commits are in that branch. So that's the longest possible answer to that short question. Next question, which is straight underneath from Prodigy Technology. Can I export my GameGuru game setup? Can I export my GameGuru game setup? Well, you can export your standalone game, which includes all your game setup. If there's any specific kind of setup that you're talking about, for example, all your settings. So if I just come out of add for a second and go into here, you see you've got general, advanced and developer, all these settings. If the question is can I export all these so I don't have to remember what's on and off, there is no support for that. And I can't remember any issue on the GitHub issues board as a feature request that requested that. So if that's a big thing that everybody wants, please make it a feature request on the issues board, and then we'll tag it and then put it on the list of priorities. What's underneath that question? Some BSP tools question mark. There's no support planned for BSP in GameGuru Max. Here's a question mark from Earthling's Corner. Question: will we also get a parallax for terrain textures? There are no plans for parallax mapping for terrain textures in GameGuru Max. Blood Moon Interactive asks, will the project system be retroactive such that we can use it for projects we've already been working on? Great question. Obviously, for implementation of version 1, I haven't been thinking about backwards migration of existing projects. Because the question is, do you really want that? Because remember, the reason we're doing the new project system is that you have a nice, clean, uncluttered collection of files that only are necessary for that game project. The projects up to now have been basically a reference collection, which is pointing to existing stock art all the way through GameGuru Max. So I suppose the closest we could get to that is some sort of special import or migrate mode where you pick your existing project and then it extracts all of the assets that it has at that point, puts it in the new remote project, almost like converting the old project to the new project system. Put that down as an issue, as a feature request, because that is, I'd like to gauge how necessary that is. It's not going to be that difficult just to create a new remote project and just drop in all your files. It allows you to manually check that all the files going in are the right ones. But if there's a case that I'm not doing that, Lee, have you seen the size of my project recently? I need a button to do that for me. Then let's put that in the feature request and discuss it. Because there's no point doing it if only 3 people need it and everyone else starting a brand new project, because it's always nice to start with a blank canvas. Okay, so yeah, that'd be cool if you could start that one off and we'll look at it and tag it. Okay, whoa, thank you very much, well done. Thank me, thank Preben, he's doing all the work. Question mark, when will we have vehicles and water cube? Vehicles have already been worked on in the community, so if you go scouring on Discord and other places, you'll find some early work on vehicles. TGC have no plans to do a vehicle feature, although it is on the issues board as a feature request. In fact, there's quite a few issues that cover different kinds of vehicles and the depth at which vehicles can be supported. And there's also no planned support for water cube in the near future, although again, I do think there is something out there which is like multiple water bodies at different levels within the level, and then when you drop into those cubes, then obviously you're in underwater mode and you're floating around as if you're swimming, etc. But all those exist on the issues board, and if you can't find them, you're absolutely welcome to post a new issue and we'll just glue them together if there's an older version, so 2 can become 1. Another question from Blood Moon, is there a way to limit the number of backups? If not, can we add that in the future? Yeah, I was thinking, Lee, when do I stop? And the good news is it's hard-coded, which is like, Lee, stop hard-coding stuff, but it gets the feature out the door and you can start using it. It stops at the last 10. I've not been mad enough that every time you do a save, it makes a copy of the last level ad infinitum. It will remember the last 10 saves. So it will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As soon as it creates underscore 11, it deletes underscore 1. As soon as you create underscore 12, it deletes underscore 2. So you'll have the last 10 instances of your level going back in time. At least that way, you're not going to have a runaway storage problem. And it's only when you're creating new files that you're going to have a new set of 10 backups. But as I said, it's hard-coded at 10. Do we need more? Do we need less? How important is it to customize that number? I think we'll find that out when we use it in practice. And is it useful at all, or do we just drop the feature and have it off by default because Dropbox is so much better? Okay, question mark is from Fearless Wee. Would the project system allow us to change game core things, such as footstep sounds, screen blood, textures, player sounds per object, everything? Anything that can unload. Yes, the whole point of the remote project system is it's like a mini version of your own copy of GameGuru Max. So anything that's presently customizable, you'll find in the remote project area. Naturally, if anything that's not currently customizable in GameGuru Max, don't expect those to show up in the project system. But as a sort of halfway house, there may be something we can do along the lines of, if you have something that isn't currently customizable but shows up in the remote project area, Max uses that instead of the root one. That might be an interesting sort of stepping stone to be able to customize things that the UI doesn't expose as customizable, but would allow you to go into Windows Explorer and change those raw root files way ahead of us having to support it with lots of pretty buttons and stuff like that. So let's do that later and we'll talk about it. But for now, yeah, anything that's overtly customizable, you will actually find those files sitting in your remote project area, and that's all tied in with Part B, which is the object management system that we alluded to earlier. Okay, another question mark is from Synchro62. As well as Dropbox for projects, could Google Drive be used? Not tested it, but I don't see why not. There's about 4 or 5 different options, and they all generally do the same thing. Designate a local folder, tie that in with your cloud folder, and ask it to continually sync. And whether you're writing a file in there because Max has written it there, or you do one manually, the Dropbox and Google Drive or equivalents don't care. They'll just sync that file and make sure that if your computer explodes, you have a cloud backup up in the sky and you can retrieve it later when you get a new computer. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't have Google Drive. Like I said, I've not tested it though. Looks like the last question of this chat. We got 10 minutes more, so keep them coming. Any way to change the entire terrain texture of the current biome, just like Classic? There has been talk about that, and behind the scenes, that shouldn't be too difficult to introduce your own set of textures. Now, the DDS files that are used by the texture system are slightly different than the regular DDS files associated with objects. It's a special kind of format, so you have to be able to export into that format to create those terrain texture sets. And again, I think that's something after we've finished the new project system, maybe being able to have a copy of your own versions of those files existing in the remote project area. Max could pick up on those files instead of the other ones, and then boom, you've got the ability to create your own biome. There's already a feature request in the issues board, which is a custom biome. And I think there's another one, which is, at the moment we have something called empty. I'll rattle on too much. We've got a screen here. Let's show it off in the reel. So if I click add new level, and you can see these what we call our biomes: plain, desert, forests, canyon, mountain, snow, rainforest, and empty. Well, some people think this ain't empty enough, so there's this discussion of a further biome which has no grey tiled floor, no sky, no anything. It's just a void. Which would be super useful for things like interior scenes, so you don't need a terrain because you're in a corridor, or in space where you don't need a floor because you're in the void. And so that's another feature request that exists on the issues board. Now it was neat to have a 4x2 grid, but as soon as we have custom complete void, we're going to need a row of buttons. So with a big row of 3 extra buttons, maybe one of those could be custom, something like that. There is, as I said, there's another issue that talks about custom biomes. But it's either going to be a massive job, or it's a really quick way of just saying, just click this button, choose another location for where your terrain textures are. As you've seen with terrain generation, have you seen the advanced view? Not that. This. Look at all the stuff you can change. So these, I mean, you can start with your default. And the only real difference between all of these is the textures that are provided out of the box. But all of these settings below, you can change all these. So you can effectively create your own biome by changing all these settings. So maybe custom is really just an extra field here where you can specify the textures that may be different, and then you can go down and change all these and then save, and then you've got your own biome. But if you think there's something more specific, locate that issue, that feature request on the issues board, and add your comments there. The issues board isn't just a place where people can have a whinge and then gripe because there's a bug and they want it fixed as quickly as possible. It's also a place where you can talk contextually about a particular feature that you feel strongly about, and then add additional details. A feature request might be a one-liner, but if you think, nope, I've got more ideas on that one line, then you can just add it. It's completely publicly available. You can go in and anyone can post to any issue on the issues board. Okay, just scroll up downy, there it is. I think that's the next question, isn't it? Yes, it is. This is from Sampi FS Gaming. When will there be the transition to GX12? There are no current plans to make GameGuru Max work on DirectX 12 or any other graphics API. We've got enough work cut out with just getting DirectX 11 version doing everything that we wanted to do, and stable and compatible and fast. So there aren't any roadmaps to get us to DX12 right now. Will collision be removed from hide terrain? Yeah, we added hide terrain, didn't we? And almost immediately it got backlash saying, no, that's not what we meant at all. Are you crazy? What basically that is this we added. See this terrain at the bottom? You've got the ability. And it's like, wait, the grass is still there. No, we're just hiding the terrain, just the terrain geometry. But anyone who hides the terrain will realise when they're running the game, we haven't hid the collision. You can still run around. It's just we're not rendering the terrain. And some people thought, oh, I thought this would actually remove the terrain completely, so I fall down the void ad infinitum. And so the decision was made, as all these are visual ticks, and none of these actually control. Well, actually, some of them do. Trees actually ties to collision. When you remove the trees, it removes the collision cylinders for the trunks of the trees. So in a way, we have set a precedent that trees remove collision. So let us know. You know, there is an issue that already is covering this. What's the majority? If we remove terrain, do you want the collision removed? Or, which was the plan we was going to follow, if you create a new terrain, like so, and instead of clicking empty, you click void. Void actually, as I said, has no terrain and no collision. And maybe that's how you end up with your I don't want a terrain and I don't want collision. I just want a completely empty thing. So that's the solution we currently have on our plate. Let me know if you agree, disagree in the issues board. Okay, another one. Will we be able to add our own trees, vegetation to max trees and vegetation system? Remember what I was saying after the new project system's done? There might be ability to just drop in some files, and Max prefers remote location files instead of the root ones. If you can figure out how to create additional trees and grass textures, etc., and drop those into the remote project area, that's probably how we'd approach that, rather than have the whole new system where you can create your own, like import trees or import grass. You probably won't see that in GameGuru Max. What you will see is anyone who has the necessary skills, in a similar way that you'd need necessary skills to create GameGuru Max compatible objects, and you want to go that far, then yes, putting the files down in the remote projects area, you could start to morph exactly what trees are available to you and what grasses are available to you. If you're interested in doing that, start with grass. Grass is a whole lot easier to add custom grasses to. And I'm saying that because yes, it is technically possible. You kind of got to dive right into the files. Trees is a different proposition. Trees were done in such a way that we wanted to go for maximum performance. And there are certain compromises in how those tree assets are provided to the engine. And so that might not be possible to change those trees. You can still actually have tree objects. And thanks to the new LOD system, those tree objects will also be very performant if you drop a lot of them into the scene. And Preben's also worked on things like draw batching. So if there's a lot of objects that are the same, they all get batched together and put into one draw call. So it could be you don't need the built-in tree system. If you've got a lot of trees that are outside of that, just drop them in as objects. Use LOD, see what performance you get. Mileage may vary. Okay, next question is a bit further down. No, it isn't. There is no more questions further down. Yes, please, so space games can be created correctly. Absolutely. You can't be having terrain stopping your spaceship. Oh yes, there are questions. I just had to scroll. And the last question of the evening, unless there's any more. Is there a way to add new clothing and accessories to the character creator tool? There are no plans to add clothing attachments to the character creator. What we've done last on the character creator is open it up so you can create your own character types. For the longest time it was basically male, female, zombie female. Those were the 4 character types, and within those you could make different choices and selections. Bodies and legs came with clothes. So let's say you would have different clothes, you just create more body parts that have different clothes on, and then you can select it that way. But what then we added is low poly, and low poly gives you a whole new character set where you could have new body parts and click them together, and obviously, as the name implies, there are low poly characters produced using that mode. But when we added it, we added the ability that you could create your own character variant and just make a folder up with that name, and it would show up in the UI as that name. And inside there, providing you follow the file format and the naming conventions, you could create your own body parts. And that's what you would do. You create body parts with the clothes that you're interested in, and then you'd use Character Creator to mix and match and assemble those body parts together to create your own characters. There is some documentation on how to prepare those Character Creator files. You'll find it in the guides folder. Let's see if I can get out of here safely and go into here. And I think you'll find it in help. Yeah. Help guides folder. So you click that, it takes you to a folder with a lot of guides, and one of them is the Character Creator one, and that should get you started. But you have to have a bit of skill in model generation, texturing, exporting, testing those exports, making sure they're compatible with everything else, animations, behaviors. You get the picture. So it's quite a lot of, there's a technical involvement in actually producing your own body parts. It's not a case of just dragging in a t-shirt that you found on Turbo Squid and it suddenly works. Alas, game making is not that easy yet. Okay, that's the last question. So I'll give one more minute for any new questions to pop in. I don't mind leaving early. It's getting hot here in the UK. So I want to switch my air conditioning back on before I boil. But yeah, next month there may be some more interesting things, more interesting developments going on in GameGuru Maxland. If you would like me to mention something that you're working on, maybe a game project you'd like to point people's attention to in the work in progress section of the Discord channel, or just some technique. Maybe you're working on a script that makes a vehicle drive around terrain and you want to share it with the world, I'm more than happy to either show a video or something that I can run, you know, some files. I can run GameGuru Max and play with it. I'll do that too, because I think that's what people are going to be interested in. You know, it's all right just listening to me pointing out the obvious half the time, but people will get inspiration by seeing what others are doing in the community, and sometimes that's all you need to get motivated and do your own thing. And we're trying to make GameGuru Max, yes, easy. We always make easy game makers. But with this one, we'd also like to make it powerful in the sense that if you want to do something, there's a way to do it. Already we have a behavior system that's pretty awesome in that if you want to, you could just drop in a bird and it instantly knows it's a bird. It has a behavior and a logic, and when you run the game, it'll fly off because it doesn't like being anywhere near people with guns. And that's the entry level. But behind that lovely picture and that description is Lua script, and you could write your own behaviors. So from the game logic side, extreme powerful capabilities on that. And we are working on the other stuff. What can you bring in? What assets? What sounds? What models? What textures? What do you see on the screen? These are the things that I think we still need to work on some more. But by the end of it, there should be nothing on the screen, nothing you hear or see or do that can't be in some way tweaked and customized. So at the end of the day, when you do that save standalone, nobody knows it was done in GameGuru Max because there's no evidence. Everything's been changed. Doesn't feel like GameGuru Max, doesn't look like FM, doesn't sound like it. You get the idea. So that's the ambition. Okay, a new question just popped in. Thank you, 3Com. Particle system Lua support question mark. There is a particle command set in Lua, but I believe it's the old decal system. So I think your question is the new volumetric particles, which of course is these. When you drop in that little add particle, what you're actually looking at there is volumetric particles using the particle editor that comes with GameGuru Max. You'll find it here, particle editor, and you can craft your own particles, flames, smoke. You get the idea. I think the question is, can we have some Lua commands that control this dynamically in the game? I think you'll find that in the issues board. That feature request already exists. And so it's really just a case of once we are absolutely out of performance and stability work, what order does those feature requests get done in? But yeah, there's a lot of people who've been asking for it. I think it makes a lot of sense. But that'll give you 10 commands to control that. Imagine what you could do dynamically in-game, responding to logic by having this particle do what you want it to do. But if you can find that issue board and then flesh it out with some more details on specifically what you want it to do. Remember, there's lots of things you can do already. I mean, you can take over an object and rotate it. So if it emits in that direction, you can rotate that in the game and it'll spray it in like a rotating circle. The things you can do already. So what specifically do you want to control? And put that in the issue, and it will just add to the conversation. And Retro Game Blog asks, any chance of an option to change the player's height? Yeah, well, we did that once before, didn't we? And I'll show you why we didn't put it in like on day one. I think it's going to be obvious. It's like, yeah, like when you drag this example out, there's a door, and here's a character. Dink. So the reason why you can't really change the height of the character much is we wanted people to be able to just drag in doors, drag in characters, press a button, hey presto, you're running around. If we allowed right out the bat someone to be able to change the height of a character, suddenly that character can't fit through the door. And so some of the AI would break down as a result. And so yeah, that's the main reason. All our doors are sort of fixed. So you'd want to change the character's height if you had then total control of every single asset. So all your doors are twice as high or twice as wide, and now you've got characters that can be twice as tall and twice as wide. The good news is, let me have a think, is there some low poly stuff I can show off? Low poly characters, please. Let's just see how big these are. Yeah, made sure they were the same size as well. So I say in theory, if you wanted to make some characters that were like twice as tall in the character creator, so if I show you the character creator, as I said, we've got 5 modes now. You've got adult male, adult female, zombie male, zombie female, blah, blah, blah. You could have a 6th one. You create some really, really tall and thin characters, and then we'll create a character from them, we'll drop them in, and then we'll ask the question, how now do we solve this issue of getting through a door? Do they bend over? And obviously all that's tying in with the physics elements of a character. And believe it or not, the physics of these characters are not their arms and legs and body and head or anything like that. They're basically capsules oriented on the vertical and sliding around in order to bump into certain things and avoid other things. So there's a lot of implications in doubling the height of a character, which is why we haven't added that out of the gate. But if you can solve all the technical problems without creating a massive headache for the developers, I'd like to hear your ideas there. Okay, I have a character climb ladders and ledges. Hi, can a character climb ladders and ledges? No, characters cannot climb or jump or anything like that. They can basically run around on anything that's got a nav mesh. That's their current capabilities. What about the height of the player? I don't think you can do that either. I think for the similar reasons, you can't get a player that's 200 units high through any of the doors. There's the customizing options. We've got speed, health, ammo, amount, rate, speed, yeah. There's no height control, sorry. And no plans to do so. And 2 more questions I think there was. Can I make 2.5D games? There are no plans for GameGuru Max to support 2.5 perspective games at this time. And I was thinking more small than larger than the player. Yeah, I think small changes, like if we click this character and go to character, I think there is a scale? No. So let's say not that full-on scale, but if there's like some modifier where it could be 75% shorter or 10% higher, that would be easy to do and would still allow it to work within all of the existing doors, even if they do kind of bang their head a little bit. So if that's something you feel super important, drop it in as a feature request and I'd be pleased to see it and I'll tag it for you. And the last question, because I've just checked the clock, we've got less than a minute left. Well, YouTube won't say because they'll chop 10 minutes down, so it's only 50 minutes long so far. And this is from Blood Moon Interactive. Congratulations, you get the last answer. You can crouch. Isn't that affecting player height? It is. Right at the beginning we had to have that ability. But it's a bit of a, let's say it's a hack, but it's a either or. You're either standard capsule when you stood up, when you go into crouch mode, the physics for the player is switched off and a new shorter capsule is put in its place instantaneously, so the player doesn't actually joggle or move. And now you can get under smaller sort of, there's an obstruction where you've got like a beam and crouch will get through it because the capsule is like a smaller capsule in height. What is truly difficult and messes up physics if you try and dynamically scale that capsule higher and shorter. We basically destroy one capsule and create a smaller capsule in its place, and we get away with it because the stood up, crouch, it's like a single event in 30 frames. So it's easy to do and it's hardly noticeable. But growing it and shrinking it and stuff, that really didn't work out in our prototypes. But as I said, it'd be good to discuss what can we get away with that gives you more choice, but without us giving us a massive physics headache. So I think that is pretty much it. I'm sorry for the 10-minute delay at the start. Obviously, when we have our microphones plugged into here, there and everywhere, and then we do lots of conference calls, the first thing that gets messed with is which microphone you've got plugged in and where it's set up. And every time there's a Skype update, it messes it up too. So we'll do a little test for the next one to make sure that we at least have microphone and some visuals, so you don't have to wait an extra 10 minutes. But hopefully you felt it was worth it. I'll be back next month. I think this is May, so June. So it'll be the last Saturday of June at 7 p.m. Not GMT, BST, British Summer Time. So check your local calendar to find out when that will be. As I said, I completely invite you, if you've got anything to show and tell, show it to me and I'll tell it. And then we'll dedicate the rest of next month's broadcast for another Q&A where I can hopefully reveal some interesting answers to your wonderful questions. So have a great, was it now, Saturday? Yeah, have a great rest of weekend and a great June. I hope you get the weather, and I'll speak to you all next month. So until then, I shall say goodbye.